What we want to learn about today is finding the surface area of a 3D object. And surface area just means taking the area of each of the outside surfaces, finding those areas and adding them all up. And what surface area will give us is the amount of space measured in squares, because that's what area is measured in, the number of squares of material it takes to cover the surfaces of the 3D figure. Now, in the example here, I have a rectangular prism, and one way to visualize the surfaces, as we know, is to take our 3D object and draw a net. In other words, flatten it into a 2D shape. So let me just switch over here to the learnalberta.ca website. I have a rectangular prism here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it apart so that I can see all 6 surfaces. And so I can see in my net that my front and my back surfaces are the same shape, my 2 side surfaces are the same shape, and my top and bottom shapes are the same. And so our job in finding surface area is to calculate the sum of all 6 areas. Okay, so our area of surfaces will be found by taking the area of the front and the back surface, which we see are the same, and adding the area of our 2 side surfaces, which we can see are the same, and adding the area of our top and bottom surfaces, which we can see are the same when we have a rectangular prism. Alright, so just to draw my front and my back, here's my front surface, and I can see from that it's 5 units by 10 units in dimension. My sides are 3 by 10, that side being the same as this side. 3 by 10, a rectangle. And my top and bottom surface being the same, dimensions of 5 by 3. So we can do our calculation for each area. We have 5 times 10, length times width for that rectangle, but we're going to multiply that by 2 because we have 2 of them. We have a front and a back. And then we're going to add on our 3 by 10 side, but again we have 2 of those, so multiply that by 2. And for our top and our bottom, we have a 5 by 3 rectangle, and again we multiply by 2 because we have a top and a bottom. Now, if for some reason you had a situation in which one of the surfaces was missing, for example, if you had an open box, then you wouldn't include the 2 there because you would only have the 1 surface. But in this case, we have 6 surfaces in total. So we're going to work out these numbers. 2 times 5 times 10, that would be 100. 2 times 3 times 10, that would be 60. And 2 times 5 times 3, that would be 30. And so our total surface area is 190 centimeters squared. In other words, if we had a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter square, it would take 190 of these to cover the outside 6 surfaces of this rectangular prism. In our next example, we have a triangular prism, and we want the surface area of this figure. And if we unfold it and think of the net, we can see that there would be 5 surfaces. Let's just look at our website again. There's our triangular prism, and if we flatten it, we can see that we have a front and a back that are identical in shape, 2 triangles. We have our 2 side rectangles being the same, and our bottom rectangle, assuming that this length here is different than this, our bottom rectangle would be different in dimension. So we have 3 rectangles to find the area of and 2 triangles. So our surface area will be found by taking the area of 2 triangles, front and back. Let's just record that, front and back, and they are identical as I saw in my net. And adding the area of the bottom rectangle, which I can see here is 12 by 30. Let's just put the dimensions in here while we're doing that. 12 by 30. And we have two side rectangles, 30 by this value here, 10, this one being identical to the one on the back side. So 30 by 10. Now, I've left the front triangle just for a moment, and I'm just going to clear my screen here so I can see things a little bit better. If I go back to the triangle, the extra issue that I have going on here is that I know my triangle area is base times height, and so here's my base of 12. This is my 10. What I know I need for a triangle is I need this value, the height of the triangle, h. And at the moment I don't have that because this 10 is the side and it's an isosceles triangle on the front and back. I don't actually know the height, which I'm going to need to do the area of a triangle, 1/2 base times the height. All right, so how am I going to figure out the height of this triangle? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off on the side here, and I notice that I have a right triangle. If I just take half of that, so I'm just looking at this little half piece right here, that would be 90 degrees, because we know that our height and our base are at 90 degrees to each other. This little distance of the half triangle would be 6, since we're dealing with an isosceles triangle on the front. And if this is 10, we could then use Pythagoras' theorem to calculate the height. And we know with Pythagoras' theorem that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the leg squared plus the other leg squared. So let's just work this out. To get our h by itself, we've got to solve for h. That would be 64, and if we square root, our height happens to come out to be a nice value, 8 centimeters. So our 8 is this value right here. So just to make that clear, we have a base of 12, and the height of our triangle is 8. All right, so we are now ready to complete the surface area of our triangular prism. Our surface area, starting with the triangles on the front and the back, the area of one triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. The base is 12, and our height is 8. And since we have two triangles, one on the front and one on the back, we have to multiply our area calculation by 2. Our bottom rectangle, there's only one of them of that dimension, 12 by 30, so we're going to have to multiply those. And for our two side rectangles, 30 by 10, we're going to have to go 30 times 10, and again there's two of those, so we have to multiply that by 2. Okay, let's complete our calculation. Our surface area equals, now our 2 times 1/2 is going to just be 1, so we don't really actually need to worry about that. 12 times 8 will be 96. 12 times 30 will be 360. And 2 times 30 times 10, that'll be 600. And if we add these numbers up, we're going to get 1056, and our units are centimeters squared. It's this many 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter squares that it would take to cover the surface of a triangular prism with the dimensions given.